these issues of progressive taxation affect citizens in every country. And the more people realize this, the more possibility there will be for countries in the developing world who are currently often too scared to go in for things like wealth taxation, taxing the super rich, which, by the way, is this fan, are afraid of doing because they are worried about capital flight, of course, but also the kinds of responses that other countries will impose on them. And I think, as Laura and Abhijit have already said this, so we have to recognize that there's a massive contradiction going on as we speak. The countries here have all signed on to a document which on tax is actually pretty good. I think we are really, it's one of the sections of the outcome document, the Compromiso a Sevilla, which is really as positive as we could have hoped for, given the very varied membership and the fact that all of these countries have signed on to it, with one exception that did not attend. And that exception is undermining it through a G7 pact, which includes Europe. Some European countries are critical members of the G7, are going along with the process of exempting US multinationals that would completely undermine the minimum corporate tax rate that was agreed after so much difficulty at the OECD, and which we felt was inadequate in itself. But even that inadequate thing is now being undermined. I think it is absolutely critical to use this forum as a way of establishing that things that have now been internationally agreed upon with much difficulty, with much effort at compromise, and in a north-south way, should be held on to, should not be, there should not be compromises to a bully. And as we've seen, Abhijit has mentioned, it doesn't help you. It actually just allows you to be walked over a lot more. So we really need to put pressure on any government, and I will include not just G7 governments that have gone out and done it, but I'm pretty sure many other countries are doing this. I'm not sure about the deal my own government in India has struck, but it is likely that such conditions are going to be imposed on them and many other countries. It's absolutely imperative to use the solidarity that comes out of this document, which is globally, it's G-1, has to actually be stronger than the attempts of one country to use the bullying power to actually undermine an entire very, very important global process. I want to also just emphasize that the idea, again, of the wealth tax, I think the global solidarity, it's great. And it's a way of taxing the consumption of the super rich, which is effective and doable, and certainly needs to be supported very strongly. But as Abhijit mentioned, it's not enough. We really have to have a much wider system of getting at the immense wealth which is out there. How did billions to trillions come about? Because everyone recognized there are these trillions being held by multinational corporations in their reserves, by the finance companies, by the super rich. And we have to get hold of that. Now, what's the simplest way of getting hold of that? The tax. And that tax, the G20 resolution shows you can actually tax the super rich above a very, very high level. I think Gabriel Zucman wanted a billionaire. Some countries said centimillionaires. In Brazil, I believe the tax that is being proposed, the new one, is above $1 million, which is a lot in a country like Brazil. In other words, it is possible to tax the 0.1% of our countries and get significant revenues. In India, if you tax just 965 families, 4% of their assets, you would get 1% of GDP. And I hate to tell you this, but 1% of GDP is exactly what the entire government of India, central and state governments put together, spend on health. We could double our health spending with this tiny little tax on just less than 1,000 families. So it is possible. It's not being done because there isn't enough public pressure, yes, but there's also not enough sense of international solidarity that other countries will do it, that you will not thereby, face capital flight, face different kinds of sanctions, face punishment for undergoing or taking forward these progressive proposals. And on multinationals, I really do want to emphasize, the whole world, every citizen in the world is losing so much because of multinationals basically not paying their due share and paying significantly less than domestic companies. We have, as a result of this, not just a concentration of money and assets, but a massive concentration of power and the ability of a few large multi-billionaires, not just to have extravagant weddings and such like, but to influence government policy to further enrich themselves and further impoverish the rest of the world. So I think examples of global solidarity, like the one we have here, they're absolutely critical also to encourage many, many other countries who may not be in this room, but who or may not even be part of this particular effort to join similar initiatives. I think the SPAs, the Sevilla Platform of Action, are fantastic ideas, and I think we should be using them beyond Sevilla to actually get more and more countries on board for what we know can be done, practically feasible, financially desirable, and now eminently technologically doable because of the fact that technology allows us to trace so many financial assets that we couldn't in the past. I'll stop here. Thanks.